you're thinking about a constitutional government, a free society, and Austrian economics, everything is different. So I would say long term, we're going in the wrong directions. All my life, the government keeps getting bigger and more violent, and we have these problems. And the things I don't like are endorsed by both parties, you know, whether it's deficits, the IRS, the effort to collect taxes, the Federal Reserve, and these sorts of things. So they're there. What's happening? Spending is going to continue. I mean, look at what it did under the, Trump administration. Skyrocketing spending and deficits. And one thing, though, under Trump, maybe the big difference is that Trump did a good job on not raising taxes, and that's good. And he did reduce some regulations, and he did not start any major conflict around the world, although he wasn't quite with us as libertarians to have a non-interventionist foreign policy, because if that were the case, our overseas presence would shrink, and people say, well, then we wouldn't be safe. We have to have our presence to be safe. No, I think we're safer if we just minded our own business. Us fighting those wars that have happened in my lifetime, anywhere from Korea to Vietnam, the Middle East, all those wars, that didn't make us safer. It made us more vulnerable and certainly a lot poorer. Well, the proper policy is really tough under these circumstances, because the proper policy in a free market is just radically reduce the size and scope of government. But then you say, well, what would happen? Would the checks quit? Well, if you were going to do the right thing, they would have never been started, because you'd have to accept the principle that creating money and creating debt does not create more wealth. People think if they just print a lot of money and pass it out, the country will be wealthier. But I just think whether it's since the recession 10 years ago or what's gone on in this past year, people haven't gotten wealthier by governments just passing out more money. So to do that is politically not feasible, because people would object, because they'll point out, well, he saved this and saved that. But also what was created there was the debt went up, but we still dealing with thousands, if not tens of thousands of people out of work and little businesses that they don't look like they're, going to open up soon. So we have this combination. Even before coronavirus hit, my turn was the inevitable downturn of the economy due to the outrageous spending and interference with interest rates by the Federal Reserve, and there has to be a correction. And it started to correct, and then the coronavirus hit, and everybody panicked. And I would say that one thing for sure is that President Trump was very, very effective in interfering and influencing the Federal Reserve. They all do it. Most of the time it's a little bit behind the scenes, and get the interest rates down a little bit. And I'd have to concede, well, on the short run, it sort of helped some people. It certainly helped Wall Street. That's really how monetary policy is designed. They are the plunge protection team for Wall Street. Very, very effective. But the reason why you can't endorse it is just blowing the bubble bigger. And since the new money doesn't create wealth, there has to be an adjustment. The debt will be paid for. It's not going to be paid for by Americans working harder and sending more money to Washington and running the debt down. That's not going to happen.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now, let's continue.
But real debt has to be liquidated in order to ever get back on our feet again, in a true sense of the word. And it gets liquidated by inflation. And that's what they're working on. And it to me amazes me that our government, especially the Federal Reserve, announces that the policy is deliberate devaluation of the money and sticking it to the poor people and anybody who suffers from prices going up. Oh, well, we have to get prices going up at 2% a year. Well, they achieved that, and I think it's a lot worse than that. And when it really hits, they'll have no control of it. See, that makes no sense whatsoever. Our government is not going to stiff them. They're not going to go default. There'll be some of that in the free market. Some people will be denied, but take student loans. The students have been told that they're never going to have to pay. They're not, and they're backing off. Why pay it? Because we're going to get excused, especially under Biden. So that debt will, be liquidated in the sense that they won't owe it anymore. But since the government guaranteed it, it's going to add to the national debt. So the debt is going to be there. And the only way I see that this debt will be liquidated, which is absolutely necessary over a period of time to get the market working again in a true sense of the word, that is going to be through liquidation of debt by inflation. They're working hard at it. And the tragedy is they're going to be successful about it. Every day I get another article of prices have gone up, steel prices have gone up, and they've never admitted to the prices that have gone up before. And this whole thing, if they don't restore sanity to the most important price in the whole economy, and that is the cost of borrowing. Interest rates are very, very important if you want to have any market economy. In a Soviet type system, they don't have a market rate of interest, and they also had no production, and the system had to collapse. But right now we're under the gun. The debt has to be liquidated, but along with the debt, the malinvestment, all the mistakes made, the $6 trillion we just spent, bailing out people, that was a temporary reprieve. To me, that's like giving a patient a shot of morphine because they're addicted. And we're addicted to this type of economy, and that's why they can't stop, and that's why it's going to get much worse. But we have a job, those of us who are in the business of spreading a message, as you are, to talk about sensible economics, and hopefully they'll come to their senses. I think the collapse will come. It's going to surprise everybody, because I was really surprised what happened to the Soviet system. I was in the service in the 60s and watched the Cold War very closely, and then all of a sudden, boom, it disappeared. So let's hope and pray for our system to change as peaceful as that was. All that money, the trillions of dollars that they passed out last year, a lot of those people, they were so far behind already. They caught up on their rents and things like this. So they're still poor, and more people are unemployed, since they were doing that. There was this up and down business, but the people are structurally unemployed, and the people aren't better off. And if you look at debt has exploded, and I think I've done a little booklet on bankruptcy, the financial part, but the moral bankruptcy too, I think is important because of the dependency people have, thinking that government and politicians can take care of themselves, and that's the purpose of the political promises, Republicans and Democrats. And they have to outpromise each other, we're going to take care of you, it's going to be okay. But it isn't that easy. There's still some rules and laws in nature and economics that prevail, and that is that the work ethic is pretty important. There has to be production, and there has to be free choices. And one thing is you can't get a healthy, thriving economy sorted out if you don't have the price of money and the interest rates. That's an important price, probably the most important price that we can talk about. Well, in a free market, the wealth gap shrinks, but you can't legislate it and say, well, your responsibility is to make everything equal. That would be horrible. But no, I think it's much better. I think when we had a freer market, we had the biggest middle class ever, and the poor are much wealthier. But I think that it's a source of a great deal of social friction right now, because I do believe that people really are suffering. And just the whole idea, I'm dumbfounded to think that we have tent cities and all the mess that's going on in our cities. These aren't people that are just a little bit poorer. They're people who are destitute, and they say, well, there's no inflation. Of course, there's a lot of inflation. Depends on whom you talk to. And inflation is there, and it hurts the poor people more than the rich people. And the figures that they pass out from the monetary authorities, it's never very bad. No, we're trying to get the inflation rate up to 2%. What if they measured inflation by the price of stocks and bonds? They're skyrocketing. What if they measured it by the stock of cryptocurrency? Maybe there's some inflation there for all we know. So no, the money goes somewhere, but it doesn't serve much purpose if it comes out of thin air. It has to come as a consequence of work. Right now, they're still saying, well, they're not saying the free market, they're saying the market we have now is at fault, and it is. It's at fault. But we never better sort out the definitions, because if people accept what we have as an expression of freedom of choice, property rights, and freedom to contract, now we're in big trouble. So it's a word game. It's understanding words. It's understanding economics.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members, where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active, and see you on the other side.